several Tory MPs have joined Labour in demanding Theresa May withdraw a key Brexit legislation amendment to set the exact time of EU departure in law. Ministers say being crystal clear about when the UK will leave on March 29, 2019 will give maximum certainty. But ex-Chancellor Ken Clarke said the move was silly, while Dominic Grieve said it would fetter ministers' hands if talks dragged on to the last minute. Labour has branded it a gimmick and said it will vote against it. The row came as MPs began debating the European Union withdrawal bill in depth for the first time, a crucial piece of legislation paving the way for the UK's withdrawal by essentially copying all EU law into UK law. Tuesday's marathon 8-hour debate is the first of 8 sessions over the next month in which MPs will pore over the details of the government's Brexit strategy and seek changes. A government amendment to enshrine the Brexit date and time, 23 o'clock GMT on March 29, 2019, in law, announced by Mrs May last Friday, will not be debated until the final day of the committee stage next month. But it dominated the early skirmishes in the Commons as Labour's Sir Keir Starmer said setting a date in law was a desperate gimmick that was about party management, not the national interest. The government's amendments to their own bill would stand in the way of an orderly transition and increase the chance of Britain crashing out of Europe without an agreement, the shadow Brexit secretary said. Theresa May should stop pandering to the no-deal enthusiasts in her own party and withdraw these amendments. What is happening on Tuesday? Labour MP Frank Field's proposal to include a date of exit from the EU, March 30, 2019, but not a specific time, was the first amendment to be debated by MPs. The Birkenhead MP said he agreed with the need for a deadline, saying he had never taken on a job without a start date or bought a house without knowing when he would take possession. He also called for the UK stop paying money into the EU until they start seriously negotiating with us. Brexit Minister Steve Baker said that, while he had sympathy with Mr Field, he believed the amendment was technically deficient as it did not specify the exact time as well as the day of departure. The government wants this bill to provide as much certainty as possible, he said, warning of legal chaos if the UK's statute book was unfit for purpose at the moment the UK leaves. But former Tory Attorney General Dominic Grieve said that fixing the precise time of withdrawal would fetter the government's hands if negotiations dragged on longer than expected. And former Chancellor Ken Clarke, the only Tory to vote against triggering Brexit, condemned what he said were silly amendments thrown out solely to get positive coverage in Brexit-supporting newspapers. Mr Field's amendments will be considered alongside Plaid Cymru's desire for the devolved legislatures in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland to be required to grant consent to allow the Prime Minister to repeal the European Communities Act 1972. Ministers say the main aim of the EU withdrawal bill is to copy across EU rules into domestic UK law to ensure a smooth transition on the day after Brexit, but critics say it is a power grab by the government which will allow ministers to change laws and regulations without going through Parliament first.